Owing to the vicissitudes of inheritance, in 1492 the Burgundian Netherlands became the Habsburg Netherlands under their new ruler, whose name was Philip the Handsome. For the same reason, in 1556, the Habsburg Netherlands became the Spanish Netherlands under the despotic Philip II of Spain, notable for his unrelenting persecution of Protestants. Midway between these two events, Pieter Bruegel was born no more than 5 years before 1530, possibly in one of two villages called Bruegel, Groot and Klein Bruegel, which are near Brie in modern-day Belgium. The estimated year of his birth is based on the fact that Bruegel joined the Guild of St. Luke, the Master Painters Guild, in Antwerp in 1551, studying there under Pieter Cook van Alst. Soon afterwards he travelled south to Rome, Calabria, and probably Sicily, producing landscape drawings on the way, which would provide inspiration in his later landscape works. When in Rome, Bruegel met and collaborated with Giulio Clovio, the Croatian miniaturist. The earlier Flemish painter Joachim Patinier used high horizons in order to create extensive landscapes as a sublime backdrop for scenes from the Bible. Bruegel's early work, on the right, from his years in Antwerp, show his use of the same device. Another work from Bruegel's early years in Antwerp is this illustration, his first large panel, expanding on a small work of 12 proverbs from the previous year of Netherlandish proverbs. Bruegel gained the nickname Peasant Bruegel for his interest in travelling into the countryside, observing peasant life in his native Flanders. This work contains references to 119 scenes referring to proverbs, some of which refer to more than one proverb. The most famous scene is perhaps the one at the bottom of the centre, which gave the work its original name, the blue cloak. The proverb, "She puts the blue cloak on her husband," means she is unfaithful to him, perhaps something akin to putting horns on him or pulling the wool over his eyes. However, the majority of the proverbs have more direct equivalents in English. Here are a few examples. "The roofs are tiled with tarts" is the Flemish version of English's "the streets are paved with gold," meaning that it is an affluent place where one's fortune can be made. "Filling in the well after the calf has drowned" is similar to "closing the stable door after the horse has bolted," in other words, taking action after it's too late to have any effect. I find this illustration quite representative of Bruegel's interest in peasant life in all its earthiness. It represents the proverb, "They go to the toilet through the same hole," which is equivalent to the idea in English that they are joined at the hip, which means that they are inseparable friends. The fall of the rebel angels tells the story from Revelations chapter 12 verse 7, in which Satan rebels against an omnipotent and omniscient God, and a war breaks out in heaven between the serpent Satan and his angels and the archangel Michael and his angels. And Satan and his angels are thrown down from heaven for rebelling. The work was at one time believed to be by Hieronymus Bosch, so close is its style, until Bruegel's signature and date were discovered in the bottom left of the painting, hidden by the frame. A theory as to why the work seems so similar to Bosch's stems from the fact that the Protestant William of Orange, the Protestant, had inherited Bosch's Paradise of Earthly Delights, and one of Bruegel's patrons was William's rival, Cardinal Granvelle, advisor to the Habsburg regent Margaret of Parma. And hence Bruegel may have created the work for Granvelle in order that he would have a work to rival William's, and perhaps for him to own a work illustrating the futility and evil of rebellion against your masters. In 1563, Bruegel married Mayken, the daughter of the artist Pieter Cook van Alst, and moved permanently to Brussels. A year later, Bruegel produced this unconventional and disturbing Adoration of the Kings, showing the scene from Matthew chapter 2, verse 11. In this version, an aged Caspar offers his gift to the Christ child, who recoils in horror. Instead of the conventional gold which Caspar usually offers, in this scene he is offering Christ myrrh, usually associated with Balthazar to the right. Meanwhile, Balthazar's crown resembles the crown of thorns of the man of sorrows, while the halberd of the soldier behind Christ resembles the cross, and the excessive throng of soldiers reminds us of Gethsemane. Some of these elements come from Bosch's adoration, an altarpiece, which reminds us that the Christ's birth was in order for his sacrifice, the crucifixion, and subsequent salvation of mankind through the Eucharist to take place. But there's also an uneasy sense in which the kings and so many soldiers from a distant country, and so redolent of the soldiers and the king that will kill him, perhaps have a parallel in the people of Flanders executed as heretics by Spanish soldiers of the Habsburg kings. This work from the following year is one of Bruegel's most famous works, and is from a series commissioned by Nicolaas Jongeling, owner of over a dozen Bruegel paintings. The series is of the months of the year, consisting either of 12 or of 6 paintings, of which only 5 survive. The ferocious cold is evident in the painting, and 1565 was the coldest year of the 16th century's Little Ice Age. Aside from the abundance of snow and the blue-grey snow-laden skies, the ponds have frozen, and even the lake in the distance on the left, we can see people walking on the ice next to ice-locked boats, and a horse pulling a sled of people. The wheel of the watermill has frozen up entirely, also reminding us that harvest and milling is long past. The main focus of the painting, the hunters returning from the hunt in the foreground, also emphasize the cold and the scarcity of food. The hunter's dog, on the left, hunches up to warm itself. The hunter's only catch is a fox. Very apposite then that the sign on the inn with St. Eustace, patron saint of hunters, is unhinged. The people in the inn, burning the old straw floor covering, take the opportunity to enjoy its unbridled heat. People should beware, though. In an attempt to stay warm, one household have loaded up their fire, but now the chimney has caught fire. The mountains in the distance are not from the lowlands. They're an icy souvenir from Bruegel's crossing the Alps on his way down to Italy. Hunters in the Snow represented December to January, and its companion piece, A Gloomy Day, is set in February to March. The mountains on the right-hand side of the Hunters continues in the left-hand side of A Gloomy Day, implying that the Hunters begins the cycle, but doesn't discount the possibility of a series running around the room with October to November to the left of the Hunters. The mountains in Gloomy Day have less snow on them, and the diagonal in the composition of the Hunters is reversed in the Gloomy Day. All is not so gloomy though, as apart from the Thor, February brings Carnival, as can be seen from the figures on the right-hand side of the canvas. This work is from the same commission as the Hunters in the Snow and the Gloomy Day, and shows the same interest in the expanse of landscape, combined with a panoramic delight in the details of country life. It shows the same dedication to individual characterization, such as the female harvester having lunch with her very upright back to us. Unlike winter, there's an abundance of rye bread, and the harvesters have spread pears from the tree above them on their white sheet to eat afterwards. The commission was probably for a dining room, and hence the relishing of food would compensate for the paucity of food in the Hunters in the Snow. In the distance, the monks from the local monastery are taking advantage of the heat to swim naked in the pond. In the village on the left, the village folk are playing a game to kill a tethered goose by throwing sticks at it. Hideously cruel by modern standards, but a game with high stakes, as the winner had the goose as the feast. This work seen here is not actually by Bruegel, but is a copy made of a work by him and executed in a close approximation of Bruegel's style. The canvas represents the story told in Ovid's Metamorphoses of Daedalus, the architect of the Minotaur's labyrinth, and his son Icarus, who escaped from Crete by fashioning wings from feathers and wax. Icarus fails to heed his father's warning not to fly too close to the sun. The wax melts and Icarus plunges. In other copies, Daedalus can be seen above the ploughman, with the figure in the blue top resting on his stick, looking up at the flying figure. The census in Bethlehem is mentioned in chapter 2 of the Gospel of St. Luke. But in this work, Mary on a donkey and Joseph the carpenter with his saw can be seen arriving in the centre of the bottom of the work to a census in a Flemish village in the 16th century. The inn where the registration is taking place has a placard with a double-headed Habsburg eagle on it, and the Flemish citizens are being made to pay tax. Bruegel's attention to detail is masterly, and his composition uses strong diagonals, one made by a line of people crossing the frozen pond in the top left, another by the roof of the inn, and another from the town gate, the latter two converging on the strong lines of the wagons in the horizontal foreground area. This work is a companion piece to the census at Bethlehem in terms of the fact that it was painted in the following year, and because it shows a scene from the year of Christ's birth, also taken from the Synoptic Gospels, this time from chapter 2 of the Gospel of St. Luke. Again, Bruegel has set the events in 16th century Flanders, but this particular version in the royal collection of Elizabeth II is perplexing. Fully armed and armoured soldiers and red-coated Walloon mercenaries in the pay of the Habsburgs are killing geese with pikes. Another soldier is impaling a small hog. Another is using a dagger against an earthenware pot. A woman grieves over a selection of cooked meats laid out in the snow. But here and there, historical truths begin to emerge. The painted snow thins to reveal underpainting. A child's clothes strewn on the ground. What is the relation to the package on the woman's lap over which she grieves? There is more underpainting showing through. A child's legs dangle below a goose, a child's hand next to the hog. A Habsburg double-headed eagle on a rider's tunic has been overpainted. Only one child has been left unredacted, but his fate is clear when we look at alternative versions. The Queen's version had been painted over by the Habsburg Emperor Rudolf II when he acquired the painting, horrified by the portrayal of Habsburg atrocities in the Dutch revolt that had broken out in the year before Bruegel made the painting.